Do you ever wonder what happens when the police leave? Crime scene cleaners are private companies that handle the cleanup after the police are gone. Spaulding Decon is one of the nation's largest cleanup companies handling the aftermath of homicides, suicides, decompositions, hoarding, and much more. These are our stories.
Hey everyone, today we are bringing you a crime scene cleaning special. This week's special episode is presented by Oxygen's latest true crime series, New York Homicide. Oxygen is as passionately obsessed with true crime as we are, so if you want to improve your true crime habit, then you need Oxygen. After you check out today's episode, head over and watch this story on Oxygen. To my left here is Steve Wolf, and to my right is Fiona, who will be joining me today to discuss the murder of 78-year-old Edna Pierre-Jacques, aka Mama Edna. Edna's body was found in her Brooklyn apartment on February 27, 2017, by her granddaughter Brianna, who was only 16 at the time. Brianna and her mother, Marjorie, came by the apartment to pick up a gift Edna told them to. Brianna went into the home and noticed her grandmother wasn't in the living room. She proceeded to walk upstairs to Edna's room, and that was when her body was discovered in a pool of her own blood. Brianna ran downstairs to tell her mother, Marjorie, something was wrong with Edna. They both ran back into the home, and Brianna called 911, and Marjorie alerted her father, Frederick, who was watching TV in his bedroom, until police and EMT arrived. But once they showed up to the scene, they ruled Edna deceased. At this point, police are taking note of the scene. They noticed a hammer with blood on it and an electrical cord that was used to end Edna's life. They quickly ruled this as a homicide. Because there were no signs of forced entry, the police began to suspect Edna's husband, Frederick. He started to look more like a suspect after police found a voodoo book in his room. The page the book was turned to was titled, "How to Get Rid of a Witch." Next to the book was a piece burned of paper with Edna's name written on it. Edna was a spiritual woman who emigrated from Haiti. She practiced voodoo and was known in the community to be a spiritual healer. This story was fascinating for a lot of different ways. You know, a lot of immigrants come over, especially to New York City or New York area. But, it's not uncommon that law enforcement looks at the spouse or husband or whoever as the main kind of suspect, right? So let's go back to the story, because Edna and Frederick actually were estranged over the years, which is why they slept in separate bedrooms. So that really kind of got police looking at it. Frederick claimed his innocence, but police took him into custody and continued questioning him at the police station. Meanwhile, remaining officers were still scouring the scene and came across an illegal gambling room in the basement of their apartment. This was fascinating. This detail is mentioned to the detectives who are questioning Frederick. He informed police that he and Edna were renting out the basement to a tenant to help them with costs. He also tells them that Edna is much more familiar with them than he is. At this point, detectives rule Frederick out as a suspect. They did not notice any defensive wounds on his body, so how could he be the one to murder her? Police were able to track down the tenant who ran the gambling operation and ruled her and any participants out as well. It turns out that they were not running the business that particular night. Closing in, detectives are back to square one. 2 days after the murder, detectives questioned one of Edna's granddaughters, Shakira. Shakira told detectives she went to visit Edna to pick up some clothing a few hours before she was murdered. But Edna had a friend over, Tamisha Harper. That night, Edna's body was found. Family members and friends recall seeing Tamisha and noting her odd behavior. She was at the scene of the crime for a bit, but left right before police ruled the case a murder investigation. Because Edna and Tamisha were best friends, Everyone was trying to get a hold of her, but failed to do so. Tamisha, who was 43 at the time, was at Edna's house every single day, helping her around the house, keeping her company, doing things that most best friends would do. So a lot of people thought it was strange that she was nowhere to be found at that time. Philip, Tamisha's brother, saw her pulling around the corner in a car with her boyfriend. Marjorie tried stopping them and getting Tamisha's attention, but failed to catch her eye. She would not roll down the window or even turn to look at her. The car then pulled off. The 2 days that followed, no one was able to reach Tamisha through phone. She wasn't even seen at work, and they weren't able to track down her boyfriend. They looked up her last known address and had a hit. 3 days after Edna's murder, police tracked Tamisha down in Linden, New Jersey at her mother's house. Tamisha's mother allows detectives into the home and inform them that Tamisha is in the living room on the couch. When detectives turn the corner into the living room, they notice the dazed state that Tamisha was in. She was in a fetal position, almost like the name Edna was a trigger. Tamisha began rocking back and forth. Detectives asked her to walk them through what happened that particular night. Tamisha tells detectives she's responsible for Edna's murder, but not before giving them the whole story. The day of Edna's murder, Tamisha was telling Edna, who was her spiritual healer, that she was worried about this curse and was hoping Edna could heal her from it. Edna told her that she would help and to come back later that evening. When Tamisha did come back, she developed a nasty cough, and Edna told her she had been touched, meaning the spirits are in her. Edna then tells Tamisha, "You are here to hurt me." Tamisha was confused at Edna's words. She was thinking, why would I hurt my best friend? But when Edna turned to go upstairs to her room, Tamisha followed her. Once they get to her room, Edna turned around to Tamisha and says, "You are here to kill me." After this, Tamisha says a great power overcame her and she gained an enormous amount of strength. She jumped towards Edna's neck and began to strangle her with her hands. The woman fell to the ground and Edna called for help from Frederick. Tamisha remembers the hammer but does not recall using it. Next, Tamisha used an electrical cord to strangle her until the struggle ended. Tamisha recalls leaving the scene, heading home, and taking a shower. To bypass the trial, Kings County DA reaches a deal with Tamisha and dropped the charges from murder to manslaughter. On May 2nd, 2019, Tamisha was sentenced to 17 years in prison. Now, what I got for you guys is, let's have a little contest and see how really good you are at assessing crime scenes. Okay? So what we know is that she was hit with a hammer, but she ultimately died from strangulation, right? So we saw hardwood floors, probably some spatter in there. So, for one free day of PTO, who can get the closest to what I've come up with for the cost of the crime scene cleanup?
Hey, you work from home. Let me get this one.
So, everybody's got the facts. You guys saw the scene. Kind of tight quarters in that bedroom, right? So,
second floor.
Yep, second floor. Look like hardwood floors. Doo-dee-doo-doo. So, what are you thinking? Let's talk through it. Let's go with you first, Fiona.
Well, you've got the wood flooring that needs to come up.
Does it? So we know
If
that
the
we
blood
know it
went
was only
through.
2 hours.
Yep.
Do you think
It
it went
depends
through?
how much blood, and depends how it was sealed,
Uh-huh.
how the was laying together.
Mm-hmm.
If it did go through, then the wood flooring need to come up. Depending on the subfloor, if it's wood subfloor, if that got penetrated as well, then that would have to be removed and replaced.
So second floor, probably Brooklyn, flat. I'm thinking real hardwood floors, possibly.
yeah,
Those probably pretty old places, right?
She's been there since the 70s.
Right.
yeah.
So
it didn't look
Yeah,
like brand new flooring.
No.
And
No.
so, and with that being said, it probably hasn't been replaced, so it probably has some some flex in it already. So I'm betting it's going through the wood floor.
You
That's
think
what
so? See,
Yeah.
I didn't. What I thought was because it was only there for 2 hours that we could extract it.
Like there's so many.
And so many variables.
Yeah,
Well, we know there's probably no odor.
no odor.
Not
No.
on two
No.
hours, right?
And the splatter's probably minimum because it was probably just
That's not how she died.
passed.
So maybe
So there shouldn't be too much splatter with it being fairly fresh.
just thinking about
It can
getting hit
just
in the
be
head with a
wiped.
hammer hurts my head.
Yeah, but
It really gives
my
me a
whole
headache.
thing is, I know we are looking into the fact that it was voodoo, but most times when it's a relationship between two people that close, they're best friends, there's some passion in there, and I think that if she decided to pick up the hammer, it was more than one blow.
And why is a hammer in someone's bedroom? That's another story, though, I guess.
Yep.
Maybe she's hanging pictures,
Renovating.
Maybe.
renovating.
Yeah.
I don't know. So both of you think it probably went through the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's second floor. So you got probably wood subfloor underneath.
Mm-hmm. But 2 hours, I don't.
So I'm the lone soldier.
I know.
I
I've
say
been
it's
on
a
some.
surface cleanup.
Yeah.
I've been on some crime scenes where it's been fairly recent, like fresh, and it has gone through.
Yeah. It depends on the concentration of that pooling.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's heavy in one spot, then
Okay, so let's
Like,
play
what's the
devil's
gravity
advocate.
like?
Let's play devil's advocate. Okay, well it's Brooklyn, so it's this way. So let's play devil's advocate. We can say best case scenario, it did not go through.
Okay.
It would be X amount. Worst case scenario, it went through and it would be X amount. So who wants to go first?
All right, I'll shoot in the dark first. And give
Okay,
you-
the low end.
The low end, I'm thinking 10 grand.
Okay, the high end.
High end, I'm thinking 18.
Okay. He's an expensive bitch, isn't he?
Yeah,
That's what it was.
it's all memorable, very old stuff. So you got to replace that.
Can you really though replace an heirloom?
No, you can't.
I mean, once a voodoo doll gets ruined, I think it's done.
Yeah.
Completely different wolf. Low end, like 5 to 6. High end, 8 to 9.
Okay. So, what I picked, low end, 3,500. High end, 10 grand. Ding, 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 ding.
Got me some PTO.
Yes, yes. But
There's just so many.
there's so
different
many
factors.
variables. And that's
There
what a
definitely
lot
is.
of people don't understand is how many variables there are. So, you walk into a scene and people are like, hey, how long is this going to take? And it's like, well, it's like an onion. I'm going to
Yeah.
peel it back until I get to the bottom of it. And I can tell you what I think now, but it will change. See what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a ton
Yeah.
of variables here. So what if
And
the hammer blow and there was curtains on it instead of blinds? There's
Yeah.
spatter all over the curtains, right?
Yeah, and the problem with it is the estimating part is an exact science. It's an art.
It is.
Now, and when you get to actual cleaning, that's when the science portion of
Right.
it comes in.
Right. Absolutely. So that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand is there's tons of variables to it. So like what if that was like a Pergo LVP type flooring, right? So that's essentially a floating floor, right?
Yeah.
And it's super simple for liquids to go through the floor and then you hopefully have that vapor barrier, but I've even seen it go through that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is super, super complex. And I think hopefully our audience now can appreciate how difficult it is. So it's not like that, when we come and we say, I think this is what I'm estimating, but it's an onion, right? You're peeling it back and it can change. So that's why communication is so important with the clients because they don't understand it.
Definitely, I see a lot of times, what people don't understand. They want to call in and they're like, "Can you give me a range?" No, I haven't seen the scene. I cannot give you a range.
Right, right.
Depending on every variable that we just discussed, can impact the price in a lower fashion or a higher fashion. Because, like you said, some flooring's easier to clean up or
not
pick up.
cleanable at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so those things are things that we have to know the art of estimating.
Yeah.
these things.
But how sad at the end of the day to be murdered by your best friend,
Yeah.
Someone that you trusted completely.
Yeah, because she
Yeah.
was possessed by
Well,
something.
And the
The human mind is so powerful, it will believe what you tell it.
Mhm.
And if you believe enough that exists, it will to you.
Well, that's like Edna, in the episode it said how Edna would talk to her grandkids about
Right.
it and how voodoo can only affect you if you believe in it.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
So it goes with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of like anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you believe in like afterlife or something like that, you're gonna think that you see stuff.
Yeah, there's so many questions.
There is. So I guess we'll never know. But you are not the weakest link, so you get a free PTO day. Great job. And thank you guys for watching. And remember, there's a new episode of New York Homicide airing every Saturday at 9 p.m. Or you can stream the latest episodes on the Oxygen app. Have a great day.